so that we can have it. I've got recording started. So welcome. Again, if you're new, I'm just asking people to put their name and their committee in the chat so we can have a rough estimate of who is here. And just trying to keep track of who we're touching base with. My plan is to take this recording that I'm making right now, translate it into a YouTube, and send out a link. It might take me a few days, so please be patient with that. In the meantime, you still have agendas to do, etc. So the first thing, I think I can probably take myself off of video here. I don't need to be up there. So the first thing that I want to talk about is your roster, because I think the roster is the foundation for your meeting. The whole purpose of this little training is to get you prepared to conduct your meeting at AIM or online if that's how you're going to be doing it. As officers, it is extremely important that you know who is on your committee and what their status is. So we're going to start with the very basics. Some of you probably know this, so bear with me. The best and most efficient way to get your current roster up to the second is to go to the ASABE website and log in. And you see I am doing that right now. Went to the wrong thing. Here we go. So now I'm logged in. You can see my name here. The next thing you want to do is go to the committee tab here at the top, down to on the left where it says committee rosters. This is extremely valuable. I use it every day, all the time. So it shows 310 committee rosters, and you can page through, but the more efficient way is to show all 310, and then you just need to scroll to yours. And I'm just going to scroll and grab one. Let me grab this one here. So I'm going to open this in a new tab in case I wanted to come back and grab another roster. So your committee roster will open online in this new tab. So we're going to assume this is your committee. It shows everyone who is on your roster. There's their name. If you wanted to email them, you could select their email. If you wanted to find out about them, you could select their name. It tells you their position, their term expiration, their member type, title, organization that they are with. So this is all nice and handy, but what I would suggest that you do in preparation for your meeting is to download the actual roster and possibly even print it out so you can refer to it rapidly. To do that, you go over to export. I download in Excel. And you get this little results grid dealy up here. And when I clicked on that, it gives me, see if this comes up. This is not coming up here. So hold on, I'm going to show you. I'm going to move screens here. Okay, do you see this over on this screen here where it has 3 buttons? Yes, no, help. Can you see that? Anyone?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this always comes up when you are downloading in Excel. Thanks, Rex. So click yes. Don't ask me why, just click yes. Okay, now we are going back to my main screen, and here is the roster that I just downloaded. So you can enable editing, and we come up with everything that you saw, but in an Excel spreadsheet. This is what is really valuable, is because you can just kind of scroll through here.
And we're still on your project process list, not the roster.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we on the right one yet?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. So what I do next is I go here, highlight the entire row, and I put a sort on. This allows you to do a lot of things. You can sort for position. You can sort to find out who your members are, who your observing members are. So let's just see who's observing on this committee. So there's just the observing members. If you are looking to find out who liaisons are, because some of the options for your renewals or new representatives or liaisons are listed on your agenda. You can sort to find out who your liaisons are and or the representatives for that matter, and when they expire as well. So this gives you a lot of functionality. Some things that I want to point out to you. This term expiration, this is when the members on your roster are having a change. Let's take, in this case, there is only one selection for the 2024. If you see this 7/31/2024, these three people in a previous communication with staff have opted to expire. So they notified us that they wanted to drop off. Because they notified us, we expired them at the end of AIM. If you see this 7/31/24 on your roster for a member, it may mean that A, they chose to expire at the end of AIM, or they chose to move from a member status to an observing status, in which case I've expired them for the member status, and on the 1st of August, they will become an observing member and be listed as such on this roster. So I want you to note that. If you look at your roster and there is a date of 9/15/24, that means that that person never responded to the staff emails, and staff sent out at least 5 emails individually to people over a 3-month period. So if that person did not respond, feel free to reach out to them yet again. But if they still do not respond by the 15th of September, they will automatically drop off. That's when everything shifts. So keep that in mind. I want to also point out member type to you. Now you'll see a variety of member types. Let me go to the sort and you'll see AM, which stands for ASABE member, CM, which stands for CSBE member. We have a joint membership agreement with the Canadian Society of Biological Engineers. So if you are a CM, you are automatically an AM as well, an ASABE member. It costs a little bit more, but you get the dual membership. Not all CM members are Canadian. Some US citizens have chosen to do that. What I want to point out to you is NMI. So if we do a sort for the NMI, NMI stands for non-member individual. That means that these people are not ASABE society members. They have not paid any dues. ANSI requires ASABE as part of our accreditation to allow non-members to participate in standards development. So as you see, staff is a non-member. I think Scott is actually an ASABE member, but the rest of us are not. But we do have non-members who are observing, and oftentimes you will find non-members in an observing status. And then we have a liaison from SAE who is also a non-member, and she sits on this committee to get information. Something I would like to point out to you, though, is that it's very important for you as officers to know who your ASABE members are and who your non-members are, because a non-ASABE member should not be in a position of officer candidacy. So you should know who is being nominated for those open positions. Check your roster, which is why I suggest you print it out in advance so you can quickly look down there and see this. If they are a non-member individual, we should not have people who are not paying ASABE members making decisions for your committee and for the society. I think that's a no-brainer, basically, but I think a lot of officers don't realize that we do have these non-member individuals participating in our technical committees. So please keep that in mind. Do we have any questions on that? None. Okay, good. So let me see. Some other things that I want you to be aware of. And this committee, we have liaisons. I pointed those out before. So some committees will have liaisons, which are generally coming from an outside organization, and they should be an observing member on the committee. All liaisons are observing. They do not vote. They have voice. They can get information, etc. If you have a representative, a representative to a committee is a voting member. So it's really important that when different committees want to have representation on another committee, you communicate with that committee to make sure that's okay. You don't just assign someone, but you have some communication with them so everyone can be in agreement, because a representative becomes a voting member on that other committee. So that's very important. Something I'd like to point out, some of you may be NRES, Natural Resources and Environmental Systems officers. I think it's important for you to understand that in NRES, there are 2 committees that have 3 representatives each from the major NRES committees of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. NRES 07 has 3 representatives for the terminology representing each of those committees. NRES 03, which is the Standards Oversight Committee, also has 3 representatives. One thing that I have noticed in the NRES, because they have to populate these 3 representatives, one expiring each year needs to be replaced, is that a new person will walk into the room at AIM and immediately be asked to be a representative on one of these committees. So let's just imagine that a student has walked into the room and the student has never been to a technical committee before. They don't know what this technical committee does necessarily, but they have some interest in the topic from the title. And they are immediately asked to be a representative on the NRES 03 Standards Oversight Committee. They say, okay, sure, because I'm not really sure what this is, but it sounds good. The officers are saying, this is a great way to get started. Well, they have just put that person in a voting position to decide whether or not a standard project should be approved for publication or just approved for development, which is extremely unfair to that new person. Something else that you may not be aware of is that person may not even be an ASABE member. They may be an undergrad student, because we do have undergrads come, and they may be a graduate student who is not quite sure what they're doing. So I do want to caution you, before you set up a representative nominee, make sure they know what they're doing and what they're getting into, and that you as officers have at least looked to see what type of member they are. Are they an ASABE member? That is key. Questions so far? Okay. Another thing I want to point out to you is click this off here, is in Engage, we get a lot of questions about bylaws. So I want to, let me see, I've got to think of one. Hopefully we'll have some bylaws here. I'm going to do a search to go into MS 2361, go to the community. Every community that has bylaws will have them in their library. So let's see, there you go. The staff tried to set up some consistent folders in all of the Engage libraries, and the first one you're going to find is your bylaws. So rather than coming to me or another one of the staff members, check your library first, because we have tried to upload all of the bylaws that we have. If you go to your committee and do not see bylaws in a folder, you don't have any. In that case, you need to have some. So please do contact us. We do have templates. But here you have them and you can easily download them. They're available for everyone. So I would highly suggest as officers that you download your bylaws and read through them, because your bylaws will tell you what your succession is. For most committees, you will be electing a new secretary, because the secretary moves into a vice chair position, the vice chair moves into a chair position, and the chair moves into a past chair. Sometimes the secretary does not ascend up and you will need to elect a new vice chair. Sometimes you don't have a secretary because staff serves that purpose. So check your bylaws, because those will tell you what your succession is. We've also been asked questions about, how do I know what committees I should be serving on as an officer? Generally, an officer, in this case, 6-1, is a subcommittee of MS 23-6. The chair will serve one level up. So the chair should be a member of MS 23-6 so that they can report to them. And that's the same case with any of the other communities. If you are in a subcommittee, the chair should be sitting on the next level up. All of the officers, the chairs, should be serving on the O2 committee, which is your steering committee. So those things should be detailed in your bylaws as well. Another thing in the bylaws is going to be your terms of office. Most terms of office are 2 years, not all. We have some, especially the tags, the technical advisory groups that work with ISO. In MS, those are 3 years. For some of the committees, I think we have a couple in PRS and a couple in NRES that still have 1-year terms of office for their various officers. So in order to know what is happening with your committee, please check your bylaws. I actually got an agenda today that showed minutes from last year that indicated the officers were a 1-year succession. I went and checked their bylaws and they are a 2-year succession, which I notified them. So know what you are agreeing to when you are nominated for a position. That's important, but also know what your responsibilities are and how long that is for. Any questions on any of that? Okay, great. I am now going to move on to some agendas. So there are a couple of things that you need to understand with agendas. We have templates online. So if you were to go to the committees tab here, you see this committee management. This was set up so it doesn't have quite as much information as you may need, but there are some basics here. You can click on any of these links and they will take you to, I believe, a download or a page that has information. So in this case, your officer responsibilities, some basic information about what the officers are expected to do. Going back here, this is a document that tells you how to update your committee roster. This year, staff tried something new. In early spring, we reached out to everyone on all of the technical committees who was scheduled to expire, requesting them to notify us if they wish to expire or change their status. So when you pull your roster now, there will be very few people who have not responded. I had 1,241 original members in positions that needed to respond. And I believe when we finished in June, we had approximately 100 positions that never responded out of 1,241. So we had a phenomenal response and made everyone's job a lot easier. So you should primarily be notifying me or the other staff members of new officers and new members or new representatives or liaisons that you're adding. Be sure to always include as much information as you have. If you have new members, please give us their name and their email. Sometimes people will put down a name such as Biff Smith for example. I know that sounds silly, but that's the name they want people to call them in the meeting. But when I go to look for Biff Smith in our database, because they should be there, I can't find them. And so I look at their email, and their email says something like Biffaloni Smith Jones, and their account is under Jones and not Smith. And the first name didn't work either. And so the email oftentimes is my savior. So I can find them by their email if I can't find them by their name. There have been a few instances over the years where the email does not match because the email they gave the sign-in people or the sign-in sheet was their Gmail account, and they registered with ASABE with their corporate account, and never the twain shall meet. So there have been a few people we could not connect with simply because of that. So it's important to give us as much information as possible because sometimes it's like a little scavenger hunt. Anyway, also underneath this, you will find a meeting agenda template, which just downloading here. And I will move it over as soon as it opens up. And this is just a template. I need everyone to understand that. A template is a tool for you to use. We have started using what we call a consent agenda, which means you can put a lot of basic information in the consent agenda. And then when you are at your meeting, you can approve everything within this box all at once. Your past minutes, your closed ballot notifications, upcoming, it's all information that your members can go and look at in advance. And oftentimes what staff will do is we will embed information here. So let's just say past minutes. If you've never done this, this is quite easy. What I'm going to do is go to the Insert tab, over here to Object, and select that. And I'm going to create from a file and display it as a link. And then I'm going to browse. So let me go into, again, I'm going to grab a committee here. And here we go. And I'm going to select what I want to embed, insert, okay. And it's thinking. And that is my document embedded in this document. So I don't have to send multiple documents. I can embed a number of documents right here so that anyone who gets this one document, they download this, will also get this document that they can open up at their leisure and review in advance. So you can embed a lot of information in this box for pre-review before your meeting, so that when you get to your meeting, people can approve, they can make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which means everything in that box is approved. You do not need to do it this way, though. You can separate your minutes or your rosters or whatever it is individually if you wish. In which case, you should delete this information about the consent agenda. Just take it and delete it. If this number 3 is going to be past minutes, move this other information to a different cell. So it's one thing at a time. Again, this is a tool, it's a template. You can change it as you need to. I have found a lot of people will take this template and think that they have to have a representative to STCO1 or STCO2 or the Meetings Council or the Publications Council. Those are generally for the O2 committees. Those are the committees that have representation on these higher level committees. If you don't have it in your roster, you don't need it. So go ahead and delete those. Simple enough. So let's just take this, we would go and we would delete it because we don't have a need for that. You may want to have a report from your officer, your chair, who sits on the O2 committee for your community or on the O3 standards committee for your community. So those would be reasonable to keep in. Technical sessions. This is a really big topic for a lot of our committees. If you do not do technical sessions with your committee, take it out. Just delete it. That's fine. What about publications? A lot of our committees have publications that they put out every year. A lot of academics, especially. MS has very few publications, but NRES has a lot. So use this if you need it. Same with other business and rosters. We put the rosters at the end of this template because I told you about the person walking into the meeting not knowing if they want to be part of your meeting. Let them sit through the meeting before you ask them, do you want to join? And if they say, no, I'm just a guest, I'm just visiting, that's fine. But if they say they would like to join, now is the time to talk about it and to approve it, as well as electing any of your officers. Subsequent meetings, write down some interesting things that are happening for your industry. Not just ASABE meetings, but maybe you have some special events or meetings that will be happening for your industry throughout the year that you would like to note, because if you note them on your agenda, people may actually participate in them more. So again, the question is, what is important to your committee? So feel free to adjust this any way it suits you best. I'm going to show you another one. Not save that one. I'm going to show you another one. If you go into publications and standards, this is under committees. Oh, let me grab this one real quick. The meeting sign-in template. You want people to sign into your committee meeting so you know who was there and can grab their emails, especially. This is just a quick thing that you can download and print out at home before you go. Throw it down on the desk. We've got a couple of pages here. So if you have expecting a large committee, go ahead and print out a couple of them and staple them together so you keep them all together. I always bring extras with me, as some of you have learned that if you don't have a piece of paper to pass around, I usually do. So prepare yourself and just download that. So we looked at committees and these items under committee management. I want to also go over to the tools and resources. We've looked at the committee rosters, but I want to do a quick stop at ASABE logo and branding. So we just rebranded last year, and it's taken a little bit for this to be updated, and we're still working on updating throughout the whole web system. But I wanted to point out we've got our brand guide here if you wanted to download that. We also have a selection of logos that you can use on either your rosters or notifications, minutes, whatever. And down here we have online meeting backgrounds you can download and a slide deck. I'm going to click on the slide deck quickly and download that. Again, it's a template. You can change and select what you want from it. There are a couple of cover pages and then a selection of inserted pages here. You can select which ones you would like to use for a branded PowerPoint. So that is under the committee's link here. Now, I do want to point out that in order to get to the tools and resources section, and probably these as well, you do need to be an ASABE member and signed in. You cannot do it unless you've logged in, and you need to be an ASABE member to have access to that. One of the perks. Questions so far? Anything in the chat? I'm not seeing anything. Okay, moving on. So publications and standards. This is where standards is tucked away. And under standards development, we have a page that is really helpful to our technical committee officers. If you go to the committee development page, we have some basic information, what happens for people who are requesting membership. And this is outside of your committee meeting. anyone can request membership from a staff member for any of the committees. We can only add people as observing members. If you have observing members on your committee who wish to become voting, they must request it of the officers, and it needs to be brought up to a vote in your committee. So do keep that in mind. When you are looking at the rosters in your meetings, please ask, is there anyone who would like to move from observing to voting members? And keep in mind, we would really appreciate the voting members to be ASABE members because they are making the decisions. So we have some information on voting versus observing, what the responsibilities are. Everyone should not be a voting member. Voting members have actual responsibilities to participate. We have some committees that put everyone on as voting members because they think more is better. It is not. If you have people listed as voting members and you have a ballot, those people are expected to respond. If they do not, your ballot does not pass. I just did a ballot for new officers in a committee, and they had 64 voting members, which meant that I needed 37 people to actually respond. I had to extend the ballot longer than it was originally planned to be. And I had to email practically every single day begging people to get on and vote. And we barely made it over the line. So you don't want people as voting members on your committee who do not respond. As officers, you do have the opportunity to track that and to make adjustments. You can contact these people and say, you don't seem to be able to participate at the level we expect for a voting member at this point in your career. Can we move you to observing, please, unless you wish to recommit and actually participate? So keep that in mind. You do have the responsibility as officers to keep tabs on that. The staff cannot do that for 310 committees. The officers do need to take some responsibility there. So moving down, just as officers, I wanted to point out, these are older from a couple of years ago, but we had just general leadership training, which does talk about how to conduct a meeting. It talks a little bit about our society and how it's set up, et cetera, if you want to go through that, about an hour or so. And then leadership resources training, which goes through a lot of what I have talked about so far today, finding your committees, updating your rosters, and doing agendas. So those are always available for you, and those are open to anyone. You do not need to be signed in or logged in for it. I wanted to bring your attention to the right-hand side here. Here are additional resources. So we had the how to update a committee roster on that other pull down. I want to show you that right here is how to access your committee rosters. I know I went through it quickly, but you can always go here and open this up, and you can even print it out. And here it is step by step, how you log in, you go to committees, you find your committee roster list, how you select all, and you scroll down and export. So that information is right there on that page for you. We also have for your meeting preparation agenda templates, and this one has actual directions on it. So I just downloaded that. As it opens up, here's your template with directions on what to put where. One thing I'd like to point out to people is that when it says that notes in red are guidelines only and should be deleted before the document is distributed, please delete the red. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an agenda and all these notes are in the agenda. Everything is listed there. Just because it's in the template does not mean this is appropriate for your committee. And also delete everything in red because it's guidelines, it's notes for you. I want to point out that on the left, the items listed here, this is your agenda right here. This is what you plan on talking about. So carefully amend it to meet your needs. The information over here, when you send this out, this should all be blank. because this is where your secretary or the person taking your minutes will write the minutes for your meeting. So you have not only what you planned on talking about, but included in the same minutes document, you will have a record of what actually happened. So you don't have two separate documents. You have one document with everything together. So please don't use this right side for your personalized notes for your agenda. Personalize your agenda over here on the left. Use this for your minutes. And instead of draft agenda, you would just change this to draft minutes in that case. If you look here, we have minutes directions template. This is somewhat new. Let's see, did it come up? There we go. Which looks very similar to this. But again, it's giving you some idea on how to save that and how to format it. And these cells will populate as you tab down. They should. Oh, this is enable editing, excuse me. There we go. They will tab down as you need it. So again, you're working with your agenda on this side, so you should have all of the cells readily available on the right side to use. Close that. And then also you have the sign-in sheet just as we had on the other. So I just wanted to point that out. If you're having virtual meetings, we do have some protocols that you can follow for conducting your virtual meetings, which would include sign in through the chat. If you're taking a vote on a virtual meeting, rather than saying all in favor, it's easier to say, is there anyone opposed? If no one speaks up, then whatever motion was made is approved. Any other questions? Any questions, I should say? Okay. So
I
we have
was a little late, Gene. I was a little late calling in, and I assume you're recording this. In the past, I believe you had sent out a email to the members of the committee asking them about their status. Is that something now that we should have been doing or should be doing just on our own?
It was a practice that had been encouraged for many, many years to have the officers do that.
Okay,
Um, but the staff would always be at the mercy of the officers who didn't do it because
okay,
not all the officers were able to follow through. And they would all wait until the last minute after the AIM meeting. And we have a hard deadline to get everything updated. I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. I feel that I'm talking to my computer, and I will go on screen here. So the issue is that myself, for example, I have some committees that have 125 to 150 people. And to have to go through one of those committees takes me probably 2 hours step by
mhm,
go through each at a time to verify that the chair put the right expiration date in, or to find out who is new and who is not. And so we have a lot going on in August. We have a very late meeting, and it was decided this year to try something new. So as I mentioned earlier, I think before you might have gotten on, Jason, I sent an email out to everyone who is expiring, asking them to respond to the staff. And the staff have updated pretty much everyone. Out of 1,241, we had about 100 who did not respond. If you have someone on your committee that has an expiration of 9/15/24, they did not respond. You're welcome to reach out to them. If you get a response, notify us. That's great. And we can update their status. If you don't hear from them, they will just automatically drop off once they expire.
okay.
Hopefully this was helpful to everyone. I think it's made it easier for staff moving forward. So if this was helpful to the officers, we can certainly do it again. You just
I
let
have
me
a
know.
question. I have a question. So normally we will update the roster during the meeting also at the when we will have meeting, right? So instead of giving you the individual updates, we'll update the roster and we'll share the updated roster after meeting. So if anyone who did not respond to you, they respond during the meeting and we update their uh, kind of the membership expiry date. So we can all do that together, right? Instead of sending you for individuals.
No, absolutely. You can't update the roster itself. I have to do that, or another
Okay.
staff member. We are the only ones who can make the change in the database.
No, what I was
So
suggesting was we do it in the Excel sheet. We download it from the website. We update that Excel sheet. Let's say as a chair of PRS01, I update it and send you the updated Excel sheet. Then you can update in the
yes,
system.
yes. But what I would ask is please don't send me information that does not have to be changed. Because if I have a listing of 125 people and you don't tell me who's new, I have to look at everyone.
Got it.
So please tell me who has changed, who is new, who your new officers are, who your new liaisons are, who your new representatives are, who your new members are. Are they observing or are they voting? Tell me that.
Got
It just makes it so much easier. We've already updated everyone who wanted to be updated. So if you look at your roster currently, you will see very few with a 24 date,
Got it.
which that was the whole plan. So hopefully that will work. Does that answer your question then? Okay, so
Yes, it
Okay,
does. Thank you.
I
the
had a
other
question.
thing.
We've got a question from Shafi here who's waiting. Excuse me, Jason.
No, that's fine. Sorry.
Shafi? Oh, we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Can you put your question in the chat? Okay, while he's doing that, hopefully, Jason, you had another question?
Yeah, and so the other thing I've seen this done a couple different ways and not knowing which is the proper or the way that's expected. I've seen sign-in sheets come into meetings with no names on it, and similar to the one that you showed that we could print out to bring in. And then I've seen some of these sign-in sheets that have all the information already there, and you just sign your signature.
Right. That's pretty much what staff puts together. You can do it either way.
So is so, and most of the time, some staff is in our meeting. So again, I want to make sure, do I need to do that, or
Yes.
is someone
So
going to come from staff going to be there? Do we know?
staff is only required to provide sign-in sheets and to take minutes in the tag meetings and the O3 meetings. Everything else, you're on your own. Staff may be in on your meeting, but they are not required to provide minute taking or sign-in sheets. I always carry extras with me. So if I'm in your meeting, I'm happy to provide that. But don't make an assumption that someone will be there to do that for you. As an officer, you need to be aware of your roster, and you can easily download one of those rosters, add another column for people to initial. It just takes a
Okay.
few minutes. And that's a really
Yeah.
nice, clean way to do it. Does that answer your question, Jason?
Yeah,
Okay. It looks
I
like
guess I will ask and see if Sadie will be at our meeting or not.
okay, but again, she is not
Yeah, I
responsible
know.
for that.
I know.
Okay.
But I'd rather just tell her I'm gonna provide it and then she's not wasting her time doing it.
Well, she knows she's not to do it. So I think we're good on that because she's got a lot to prepare for. But thank you for thinking of that. And Shafi has, if I'd like to know how many committees I am on, how do I find out? How do you find out how many committees you are on? So here's a good one. I'm going to share my screen again. Engage is fabulous for this. So I am share screen. I got to do this one step at a time. Share. There. Okay. So here I am back at the home page. I'm still logged in. I'm going to go to Engage. And this is going to my Engage page. But when you are in Engage, you see my pictures up here. So I'm in my account. You just have to go to Committees and Communities and open that up. And every community or committee, they call it a community, but every committee you are on will show up here. There are several here that also will have a button to the side that will say join. Those are what we call self-join committees. They're more discussion groups that you can sign up yourself. We have no control over you signing up or getting out of those or anything with them. They're just discussion groups that were set up that you may have some interest in participating in. Let's see if I can find one. This agrivoltaics, for example, is one of those self-join groups because they're talking about solar panels on agricultural land. So if you're interested in that topic, you would go and you would select the join. I'm on every single one of the 310 committees. So that's why my list is so long. But yours will show only those self-join committees that you may have the option of joining or committees you are actually in. Another thing you can do in Engage is go to your profile and look at my connections and click on the committees or the communities, which shows all of your committees again. So those are two ways that you can find out what committees you are on. Okay.
So, Jean, I know it was not part of agenda, but want a small favor. Since you're on the Engage, can you show quickly how do we send, like, if we have to send agenda or past minutes to the all community members, how we do that? If you have a minute, quickly.
Okay, so there are two ways. I will tell you what my preferred way is. Let me go to easiest way for me to do this is to go to a committee to show you. So communities, view communities. So I'm just going to pick this one. So MS 2362. If you see right up here at the top, it says committee email. Right there is your email that you need. Okay. You can do it two ways. The first would be to go to threads. Sometimes it's threads, sometimes it says discussions. Start a new thread. And you put in your subject, you put in your information. If you want to link something, you can do that. If you want to upload, where do you upload? Add an attachment. If you want to add your attachment. Anything you attach to this will go into your library, so you don't need to worry about that. So that's one way. Then you just post it. Okay. The other way, I'm going to go back to my home. Okay. And this is what I do most of the time. There is my Outlook, just from my own email service. Okay. You can come in here and you can copy this and paste it. I can attach whatever I wanted to attach. I can say what it is. There's my subject. I can put in any information and just, if I spell it right, and just send it as is. So there are two ways. You can send it just as an email to that email address. It goes to everyone on your committee, or you can start a new thread.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Feel free to ask questions because we've got 7 minutes left and this is your opportunity.
So there is a question in the chat that says, how do we know if the members with terms expiring dates of 7/31/2024 on the roster are expiring or migrating to another membership category?
You will find out on the 1st of August. Most of the people who were members with the 7/31/24 asked to be observing, most of them. If they are in the observing status currently and it says 7/31/24, they are expiring. There were a handful of people who were observing who asked to be members, in which case we notified the chairs already to put it on their agenda because we cannot change people from observing to member. That has to be an elected position. So the committee must vote. So we did notify those chairs already that these people had made a request. But other than that, if they are observing with the 7/31/24, they are expiring. Dolores says, Engage uses the term communities for all groups, committees, and sections. Yes, they do. Thank you, Dolores. Any other questions?
I'm seeing some members on the roster with the term expiration date of 9/15/24.
Those people never responded to us. So if you wish to reach out to them, you're welcome to. If they do not respond, they will drop off automatically after the 15th of September.
Okay.
So we didn't want to take people off who didn't respond because there may be a reason that they didn't respond. You know, as committee officers, you may know them personally. You may know that they have a different email, in which case it'd be nice if we knew that, and you can reach out to them. So we're giving you that opportunity. Like I said, there's only about 100 throughout the entire technical communities.
So then, Mark, we might as well just send something out before the meeting asking them.
Right.
I see
And
that too.
you can send out several. Sometimes people are added as voting members or as observing members, and they lose interest or they get another job, and this is so low on their priority to notify. It just happens. People do drop off all the time. Any other questions?
Jean, one more quick question. Like, as you were showing, if we go into this online system and someone asks to join a particular community now, so what happens to that request? Like, when is it automatically approved, or when we will have meeting, then we will approve that request?
Okay, let me pop in and share again. Share. Okay, so if you are in the website, not Engage, but the website, we have up here a link for committee overviews. I'm going to click on that so you can see what it is. So this is an opportunity for anyone to see all of our committees. All of them listed right here. Some of them are those self-join committees that I pointed out, in which case, if you click I'm interested, it will take you to that self-join committee and you can join. If it is not, let me just grab one a little further down. Okay, so here's one for ES 310, for example. If you select I'm interested, it comes up with an email that you see goes to headquarters. Someone at headquarters will receive that and will forward it on to the appropriate staff person. Excuse me, I need a drink here. As I mentioned before, as staff, we can add people to any technical committee as an observing member. So I would do that, and I would notify the chair that so-and-so has been added as an observing member. We do also notify them that they may request voting membership of the chair to be approved at the next AIM meeting. There are some committees that people may wish to participate in that they may not. For example, the Board of Trustees is listed here. And if you say, I want to be part of the Board of Trustees, you will receive a very nice email saying, I'm sorry, this is a closed group. You must be elected. So there are some committees looking at the sections. Sections are dependent on where you live. So you can't say, I want to be a member of the Arkansas section and the Arizona section and the Florida section, because you don't live in all those places. I believe that you can have your primary section where you live and possibly one other. Some people move and would like to stay in contact with friends from a previous location. But that's the limit of it. So there are some things you cannot participate in. ASEO 1, for example, is the executive. You're going to say, I'm interested in this. You will get a response saying, I'm sorry, this is only executive officers from ASE. You are not an elected officer. But for the most part, everything else is open and available, and we have a little description. And again, that is found, going back here, at the very top. See if I can get back here. At the very top where we have engage, a member directory, manuscripts, technical library, committee overviews. Very, very little known about this. This is fairly new.
Thank you very much. Got it.
Okay, I've got 1 minute. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email them to me. I'll do my best to answer them, walsh@asabe.org, or you can connect with another one of the staff members, especially in the standards department. Sadie and Brittany are also available. Just for information, Carla has officially retired. She's still helping us out part-time. And Walter Brace left a couple of months ago for another position at another organization. So he's no longer employed at ASABE, in case you didn't know. But we're still here, as is Scott Cedarquist, and we're happy to help. So hopefully we'll see you all at AIM. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out and we'll be happy to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you.
Thanks.